Who are the most underrated villains of all time in cinema? How about Dr. Mann from Interstellar? Juror number 3 from 12 Angry Men? Eli Sunday in There Will Be Blood? Vincent from Collateral? Or maybe David from Alien Covenant? We put together an awesome list in this episode.
What is up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And today we're going to be breaking down a bunch of incredible movie villains that never get their limelight. Whenever you see best movie villain lists, they are always excluded. We think that there are so many incredible, you could say B-tier level villains that really stand out but never quite make like that top 20, top 25 list of the iconic villains that we see so many times on the internet in lists that people talk about. So James and I put together an epic list of villains that you're like, when you're watching the movie, you're like, oh my God, they're a really good villain. Nobody talks about how good this villain is. We made a huge list of 61 of these characters.
And your movie's really only as good as your villain or your antagonist. It's not always someone evil and up to no good and murdering people, but sometimes your antagonist can still be really incredible and make your movie work so well. And this list is awesome. Anthony worked his butt off to put together the majority of this list. I added one. But besides that, help. I did some rearranging, but I think he put together a great list. So kudos to Anthony on doing this. I think this would be a good bit of fun because I love baddies, I love villains, and these are the ones that you know, but like Anthony said, never really get those top 30 villain lists of all time or top 10 villains of all time. So you won't see Hannibal Lecter on here. You won't see Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. Those guys are too big. They're in the stratosphere. Let's go with the deep tracks, though, and start off at number 61. We have from Edgar Wright's Baby Driver, Buddy, played by John Hamm with the sickest undercut since Jake Gyllenhaal in Prisoners. And I like this character a lot. He's very unhinged. He's got a lot of things going on secretly, and he's kind of a blackmailer, and he'll do anything to succeed. And he kind of holds his cards close to his chest, but he reveals who he truly is by the end of the film.
He's a great villain, and as the third act shit hits the fan, he becomes ultimately the biggest antagonist to the protagonist of the film. And I think he brought so much charm and charisma to that role. Love him in that movie. Next up, we have, I think, one of the most underrated villains ever in comic book movie history, and that's Boyd Holbrook's Pierce in Logan. Logan, one of the best comic book adaptations of all time. And Pierce kind of gets outshined by, I guess, how incredible it was seeing Hugh Jackman do what we thought was his finale. Also, there is another main antagonist in that film. But Pierce is really cool. He's badass. I love the mechanical arm. I think he's really tough on our protagonists. And where we have actually 3 villains with the X-23 in this, he does get forgotten, I think, on people's lists and whenever people talk about villains, but I always found him to be an extremely memorable character in all of his scenes.
Real quick before we continue, check out this massive poster over my right shoulder. It's brought to you by our sponsors, movieposters.com. Use our code Raiders10 at checkout today and our affiliate link in the description of this episode in our Instagram bio to get your posters today. Movieposters.com. Thanks so much. Let's talk about another comic book movie, Black Panther. Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger was the highlight of the MCU at the time. What an incredible character with so much depth, so much empathy built for his upbringing, where he comes from, the betrayal of his past, as well as just a great character design with all the different notches for all the different kills. And just this sort of hybrid, this kid from Wakanda who grew up American as a mercenary, coming out for get the throne that he thinks he deserves, coming out for all the power of Wakanda to be the most powerful figure probably in the country. I mean, in the continent. I love Michael B in this role. He brought so much style, so much charisma, and just so much badassery to the role.
And he has a great plan. I think Killmonger's plans are really smart, and it does work until he realizes that Black Panther actually did survive his fall from the cliff. But it was a really smart plan, and if a villain has a good plan, it helps the audience buy it. All right, next up, we have a pirate on this list. It was so smart for Disney in their first adaptation of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride to not go with any of the famous pirates from lore that we already know. I think it would have been easy to do something like a Blackbeard as a villain or Davy Jones for the first film, but instead they went with Captain Barbosa, played so perfectly. I think Johnny Depp gets so much attention, but Jeffrey Rush is outstanding in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, especially in the first film when he plays the main antagonist. When I think of a pirate voice, it's Jeffrey Rush now. It will always be like what Jeffrey Rush did in the role as Barbosa is, I think, the epitome of like what you imagine a classic pirate to sound like, to act like, to look like. So that role, that performance, it's so good, and it never gets recognition on lists.
That's such a great point. It would have been lame if it was Blackbeard. It would have been two Captain Hook, obviously, or two Peter Pan, because the Hugh Jackman Peter Pan movie, he plays Blackbeard, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have felt right. It would have been too much of like, of course. It's like picking the Joker for the Batman, which I'm glad they didn't, so I agree. Let's get to another period piece. We have Sherlock Holmes, Lord Blackwood from the first film. This is played by Mark Strong. Blackwood has a brilliant plan using deception and magic tricks, practical magic tricks. He deceives the powerful of England into giving him control and takes over basically Parliament with his ability to sway others until Sherlock Holmes thwarts his plot at the end of the film. I think Mark Strong brings so much power to this performance. He's almost like an animated statue because he's got this great posture and he's terrifying and intimidating and he looms and stands tall over others. I think Mark Strong is a very underrated actor. He's in a bunch of stuff, but man, he always gets kind of like fifth build roles in movies, whether it's like Kick-Ass or even several other movies. I think he's such a fun guy when he's on screen, and Lord Blackwood's fantastic.
What a voice. What a great voice. And they really sold Guy Ritchie with this character, the idea of the supernatural being in a Sherlock film, but any fan of Sherlock knows that the supernatural will never exist in his world. All right, next up, we got an adaptation of another.
Well, hold on. He made fucking Aladdin,
Yes.
bro. There's a genie that lives in a lamp.
No, I said in a Sherlock Holmes world.
Oh, I thought you meant a Guy Ritchie world. Sorry.
No. Sure, because there are plenty of Sherlock stories where there's people believe in the supernatural is happening,
yes.
but he always, like the Hounds of Baskerville, there will never be supernatural in a Sherlock movie.
Sorry,
Story.
I misheard you.
All right, next up, an incredible villain from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Spoiler alert, this is a twist. So if you've not seen Dragon Tattoo or you want to see it, the villain reveal is a twist by the third act of the film, and it's shown to be Martin Vanger is the villain of the movie. He is a serial killer, has been for decades. He kills women, which was a tradition that his father passed on to him. And so we got the story revolving around finding out who this killer of women is. Ends up being Martin Vanger, who, amongst all the Vangers, seemed to be the least likely to be the choice. And Stellan Skarsgård is so unnerving, and he's so good in that role. And I love how he plays it. And David Fincher portrays the reveal so brilliantly. That's one of my favorite sequences is like that 10-minute sequence into the third act where he gets captured in Vanguard's basement, and it's just like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Let's talk about Speed. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Great villain in this movie from Dennis Hopper, Howard Payne, who is a terrorist and bomber who has his plan thwarted in the opening of the movie by Keanu and Jeff Daniels, who's trying to get $3 million for these hostages. He's trapped in an elevator, but they save the hostages. So now he traps Keanu's character on a bus with a bomb that will blow up if the speed reaches below 50 miles per hour. He's obviously highly intelligent, great engineering skills, but also has a lot of depth as a character, as a villain, with the backstory of being in the service himself, getting nothing but a lousy gold watch, his hand being destroyed, and he's just full of spite and anger and hate, and wants vengeance not only against Keanu's character, but the world in general and the system. So he's got great plans. He has a little too much fun, though, and he could execute a little better. So he ends up missing the layup at the end of the movie.
He's so maniacal, and I love it. And he's almost as dialed up as his Blue Velvet villain, but not quite. But still, it's hard to get up that high. You know, in Blue Velvet, he was dialed past 11 for that film. Also, that role is way more recognized as a villain than his Speed role, which I think is really good. All right, next up, we got Christopher Nolan in the house. Maul from Inception. Now, this is not obviously the real Maul. It's an imprint invention of Maul inside of Cobb's dreams. His subconscious has created this version of Maul, but she's an incredible antagonist because she always foils his plans. She's always putting up big obstacles in front of Cobb and the rest of the team, and it also has a deep connection to the trauma and grief and regret that he feels over her death. So the emotional obstacle as well as the physical obstacles that she presents for the lead character and the rest of the team throughout the course of the film are so extravagant that it almost makes the mission impossible for Cobb to carry out. And I think Maul really flies under the radar. Marion Cotillard, such a brilliant actress, and really killed it with this role.
There will be other Nolan movies and villains on this list, but don't expect Joker. Again, this is underrated movie villains. Underrated, and he's top 5 all time. But Broken Arrow has a very underrated villain played by John Travolta. Vic Deakins. What a fucking 90s action movie name. Vic Deakins is fantastic. Vic's got a great relationship with Christian Slater's character in this movie. They have a past together. They're old buddies, but, you know, they're opposing forces. They've always been opposing forces. Vic's always been a step better, but Christian's character will do anything to stop him and also prove that he's better than him. It's great. It's like a brotherly rivalry that gets too big and the stakes too high once nuclear weapons are involved. But, man, this movie's a classic action movie from the 90s, and Travolta chews up the scenery. He's so fun.
Boom, 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 boom. Man, we grew up with that film, especially with our brothers. It was definitely a favorite in the house. It's
that was
so
on
good.
TV a lot. Broken Arrow was consistently, It was like TNT or something, was always on.
And it was highly rewatchable as a kid. I always enjoyed watching the hell out of it. We
You
were
could
always
put
like,
on-
Broken Arrow's on.
You could turn on at like the halfway point or the final scene. You're fucking locked in no matter what.
Broken Arrow, Con Air, Face Off. It's like they're all like that same kind of like feeling of a movie, and man, they all hit every time. Next up, we have a Sylvester Stallone film. His writing is superb in this film, as well as it's one of his best performances, and that's in First Blood, the first Rambo film, really put over the edge by the incredible villain Sheriff Teasle, who overall represents the animosity that many in the public had towards veterans who returned home from the war in Vietnam because of what the public saw happen in Vietnam. And so soldiers, when they returned home, were discriminated against, attacked, hated by many, and this is a perfect representation of it. And Sheriff Teasle represents like society never giving these soldiers and these veterans a chance. You could say that's the overall metaphor and goal, I think, with what Sylvester Stallone was doing with this film. And it's an incredible performance. He's a really dynamic villain because he's a villain who won't give in. He's a villain who won't stop. And he chose the wrong guy to go up against because Rambo will kill everybody that they put in his way. So it's a really terrific back and forth of a villain and antagonist, and I think it's really, really underrated.
What's really interesting about the sheriff and obviously in that period is these Vietnam soldiers fought for their country, put their lives on their line. They didn't choose to go. They weren't, in charge of going to war. They were just soldiers. They were doing their job. They come back, and they're treated like they're not American citizens in a way. They're treated like, we don't want you around here. You don't belong here, even though they put their life on the line and they're from there. It's really ironic. Mm-hmm. Let's get, speaking of face-off, Castor Troy. Has Nick Cage ever had more fun with a role than Castor Troy?
I think John Travolta had as much fun as him playing the same role.
Okay, possibly, but I mean, it's such an interesting dynamic because Castor Troy, obviously the villain in Face Off, this super arch nemesis of Travolta's super agent. It's great counters of the 90s action flicks, and they obviously get their faces swapped. The whole loophole with their bodies hasn't changed at all is a thing, and the teeth as well. But that's no big deal. It's the 90s. I think it's such a delicious thing where two actors play the same character, but in different bodies, and it's just there's really nothing quite like it, and I think that's why people still love Face Off. even though it's campy at times, it's corny at times, it's such a good watch and nostalgic. And Castor Troy is outrageous, outlandish, hysterical, flamboyant. He's, got all these great quirky traits to him, but he's also a fucking psychopath. So he's so fun to watch because of all that.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a really great role for an action movie, and both actors got to do the straight-laced Boy Scout and the insane, crazy villain. And they both had looks like they had an absolute blast with it. And Castor Troy, what makes him such a great villain, like you said, we get two brilliant actors having their take on the role. And they're similar, but they are slightly different. I wonder with that movie that maybe Nick Cage shoot it first as Castor Troy so that Travolta could get a feel for what he was doing, and vice versa for Travolta's role. They must have spent a lot of time talking about how they both were planning on performing both roles, because there's a really excellent amount of cohesive emotionality and physicality to the roles that they both brought, no matter who's playing what position.
I think that a lot of that probably comes from them working on the characters together, but then the directing. Directing is really the key there of making sure that they're doing similar traits and personifications of the characters on screen.
100%. All right, next up at number 50, we got another absolutely classic action film, Robocop the original, and we got the dad from that 70s show, Red, and his best film role as Clarence J. Boddicker, who is a ruthless, dynamic, and absolutely unsettling villain. He kills with no disregard for life. He has no empathy. He's got an excellent plan, makes great friends to help him, and he's a really good adversary for Robocop in this film. They never quite found a villain that matched him in any of the other releases of the Robocop series, from the other one they did with these characters, as well as the most recent one with Joel Kinnaman. It's hard to top it. He's just like kind of lightning in a bottle kind of villain.
So I just looked up the face-off stuff. So Nick Cage interview in 1997 said they shared a lot of notes together. They spent a lot of time together developing both characters, and they both ended up, when they're the other, mimicking their, internal their internal traits for communication, the way they talk and speak. So I think it's just, basically as simple as exactly what we'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious myself.
Interesting process.
Yeah. Let's move on to Killer Joe. We have Joe. This is McConaughey, coming up, man. The McConaissance is really strong. Obviously, Interstellar is the big movie that really made him into such a beloved star post the 2000s. But I think Killer Joe was in one of those earlier roles before Interstellar, like Mud, that really got a ton of attention on him and allowed him to flex his acting muscles, because he was typecast as the rom-com guy for years and years and years, which I'm sure is fine, it's paying the bills, but that happens to a lot of actors in Hollywood. Even though he's clearly talented and had the talent, he's probably just getting many offers just to do stuff like that because he was so fucking hot and Golden God. But Killer Joe is definitely unlike anything I've seen him do on screen before, and it was just fun and outrageous. And the chicken bone scene, it's just a blast. This is based off a popular play as well, and it's a good watch if you've never seen it.
Friedkin brought the heat into the end of his life, man. He still had it.
I just watched Cruising last night.
Oh my God, what'd you think?
It's awesome. First time I've seen it.
Isn't that an absolutely amazing? There's nothing like Cruising. It's so good.
It's just like a giallo slasher. It's got the same feel. It feels almost like De Palma at times too. It's really cool.
Friedkin really is one of the greatest directors ever, man. Yeah. It's so good. All right, moving on to okay, here we go. Sorry. It took me a second to find it on the list. The Green Mile from Frank Darabont, his follow-up to The Shawshank Redemption, was another incredible highly received prison film. This time, The Green Mile had another excellent villain, Percy, who played one of the guards. Now, Percy was this kind of, in a way, bloodlustful young new member of the crew who was really desperate for some reason to pull the lever for the machine that killed people and electrocuted people himself. He had this desire because he was new, so he would watch the veterans pull the lever in the electric chair. But he had this really strange desire to, and he was cruel, and he had this sociopathic tendency and like a desire to kill someone himself. And he does do that. It leads to a horrifying scene of him really messing up someone's execution by frying the guy alive and causing him an enormous amount of pain, extending his death to being over a minute long of the most excruciating agony possible. But he does get his due. He does get what he deserves. I won't spoil how, but I think he's a really excellent villain. Flies so under the radar in cinema history, but I remember seeing this as a kid being so disturbed by this guy and so put off by him. Excellent performance, but overall, Percy's a really great villain.
You get what you fucking deserve. Oh, let's talk about The Guest. Such a fun indie horror movie. If you've never seen it, put this on your watch list ASAP. And it stars Dan Stevens in this really interesting role of this ex-soldier who comes looking for his old buddy from the war who died in the war. He comes looking for their family and ends up staying with them. He becomes a guest in their home. However, a lot of weird things start happening. He's got a lot of mysterious behaviors, and we find out that he's this super soldier whose motivations are sort of unclear exactly what he wants because he kind of doesn't know exactly what he wants. He's on the run as well from super secret agent facilities and the secret agent the super soldier program that's coming after him. It's got great humor, an awesome tone. The guy who did the last two Godzilla movies made this movie. His mind's escaping me right now. But Dan Stevens steals every scene. He's such a fun actor to watch. I think he just has so much fun with his roles, and he's got a lot of control. And Micah Monroe is the lead in this movie as well. It's one of her early final girl roles, you could say. But, man, this movie's a ton of fun. It's everything you would love about, the B-horror genre put into an awesome, awesome, high-quality movie. And it delivers from start to finish. It's so fun.
It's crazy. He did that in Downton Abbey like in the same year. It's like such a range. Next up, we got Ralph Fiennes in fucking Bruges. He played Harry Waters in Bruges, who is the mob boss who sent our beloved duo to Bruges. And Ralph Fiennes steals every scene. It's an incredible mixture of comedy, vulgarity, as well as some really good emotional depth and tragedy. I love the accent he chose to do in this film. It's so funny. I love the scene where he breaks the phone and his wife goes, "What are you doing? It's an inanimate object." And he goes, "You're a fucking inanimate object." What's wrong? Who wouldn't love fucking Bruges? Who wouldn't love that?
It's like a fucking fairy tale.
It's like a fucking fairy. Did he really say that? It's so funny. Has a terrific character conclusion that's set up brilliantly. Neil McDonough's such a great writer. He sets it up.
Martin
McDonagh he sets up this kind of joke moment, and he slam dunks it at the end of the film. It's really brilliant, and I love Rafe in this movie.
Great pick there. Great pick. Let's talk about The Abyss. Lieutenant Coffey. Mate, I haven't seen this movie in 15 years, so can you take this one away? I know you recently watched it.
I watched it last week, and I'm glad I did because I was like, he needs to be on this list. And this is Michael Biehn, who generally played, the stoic protagonist leader in James Cameron movies. He actually plays the villain in this film, and he does a really good job. He plays the lieutenant of the Marine Corps who've been sent down into these underwater station as a way to recover the nuclear warheads that are inside the submarine that had sunk in the opening of the film. However, he's dealing with intense, mental delusionment from the pressure, and his mind's falling apart. He's falling into intense anxiety and distrust, and he's basically losing his marbles, and he's going in batshit insane, and he's turning into this really great villain. And Michael Biehn did a great job. He never really had a role like this to work out with a complex character, and I think he did a bang-up job playing a really formidable villain. He's a loose cannon, and he causes a whole lot of trouble for our protagonist in the film, and I thought he knocked it out of the park.
Let's talk about X2, X-Men United. William Stryker. What a good pick here with a villain. And this is obviously the source of Logan and his past and trauma. Correcto?
Correcto.
Brian Cox bringing the heat in this role. And what's fun about this is obviously we get more backstory on Logan. But also there's this great juxtaposition of Logan thinks of William Stryker as a potential father figure, and he sees him in that kind of light. But from Stryker's perception, and from that perception as an audience member, he's clearly not a father figure. He just wants to control him and wants to use him as a weapon. It takes Logan quite a while to figure that out throughout the course of the film. And Stryker is one of those characters who gets what he deserves at the end of the film as well. He himself experiments on humans and even experiments on his own son, and uses his son as a weapon and as a tool for his nefarious motivations. But overall, really great character. Brian Cox, always terrific in whatever he does. Also plays a great underrated villain in, well, not underrated villain, but a villain in an underrated movie with Manhunter with Hannibal Lecter. So he's no stranger to playing baddies, and even Logan Roy's a bit of a baddie at times as well. So I think Brian Cox is a terrific actor, and Stryker is one of the more memorable villains from the X-Men franchise. Despite being human.
He's someone who he hates humans with such a... he hates mutants with so much fury and passion that he is willing to do anything to eliminate them and eradicate them. It's a really terrific character.
He hates. Did you say mutants or humans?
Mutants.
Okay, I thought you said humans for a sec.
I did, and then I corrected myself. He likes humans a lot. He likes them so much. Next up, we're back to James Cameron with Avatar. Stephen Lang played Quaritch in this film, who was a really good villain who, like, would just not give up no matter what. And he's someone who he delights in the colonization aspect of the military and the company's duties there, and he enjoys warfare. He enjoys hunting, and he's willing to do anything to win. And he's one of those villains where, like, you think you overcame him, but he comes back, and he's always a threat. He's a threat as a leader, and he's a threat physically in hand-to-hand combat. And he's someone he's so capable. It's kind of scary how invincible he is at times. And he's overall, from start to finish, he's a great antagonist in this film. I really like Stephen Lang's role. He did another great villain in Don't Breathe, but that gets so much attention. But he did a great job as Quaritch in Avatar. Stephen Lang,
he's in I discovered recently he's in a movie from an old film, and it blew my hair back that he was in it. I was watching it at home. Let me figure out if I can find what it was.
I'm curious.
Fuck, what was it? I'm going through his IMDb real quick. Give me a
Stephen
sec.
Lang, old film.
It's worth. Like, it was like the 19...
Did you watch it recently?
Yeah, it was like the 1980s or something. What was it? Manhunter. He's in Manhunter. That's what it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who is he in Manhunter?
He plays a guy.
Okay.
But I remember watching it. And
it sounds like a great role.
And Tombstone, too. He's in Tombstone. That blew my hair back.
Yeah, he's in Tombstone,
When I found that out. Because I watched Manhunter like a couple months ago, and I was like, oh my God, what's his name? So he's been around in a bunch of cool movies for a while. Really good actor. Let's talk about Saving Private Ryan. And a character that might, I think, fly under the radar as a villain or memorable villain for a lot of people. We have Steamboat Willie. Now, Steamboat Willie is the German soldier that they capture. The crew captures about halfway through the film, and they don't really know exactly what to do with him. They're debating, do we kill him? Do we let him go? And I can't remember his name, the character who is, what's his name? He speaks the different languages, and he's looked at as a coward by a lot of people at the end of the film.
Oh, yeah. The most hated character in movie history.
I can't remember his name, but he convinces everyone to let him go. And so they do let him go, and half the company are pissed, half of them are whatever. This is it. But in the final battle at the end of the film, Steamboat Willie is a person in the German soldier who eventually kills several of the members of the team who are left alive, especially that brutal knife fight at the inside the upper apartment where did you find his name?
Upham is the guy.
Upham. Upham lets him kill his fellow countryman.
Mellish.
Yeah, he lets him kill Mellish, doesn't intervene. And then Steamboat Willie just passes him on the stairwell, doesn't do anything except give him a look of shame for him and pity almost. Like you're not going to do anything. You're weak.
You're not a threat.
Feeble. You're not a threat. I'm just going to walk right past you. You're not going to do anything about this. Doesn't even thank him or anything. And then Upham sees him later killing more American soldiers until Upham finally takes matters into his own hands and kills him himself, but not after he took several of his countrymen. So great character, but overall it's a great metaphor for war in general, where I guess if you show any weakness, it's not going to matter. Sometimes if you show empathy, it might work for some situations, but when you're facing just pure evil, letting anything slide will just get you killed.
Yeah, I think that the point of that character is the consequences for a decision like that, and showing that like you can't be empathetic to a side like that who are fueled by hate and fueled by evil and intentions and the desire to eradicate an entire population of people. And the Steamboat Willie character is just like when you watch the movie and you just see him he keeps on killing people, both a character that we ended up really loving, and then he just starts popping guys off in the warfare sequences, and it's just like you just makes your skin crawl knowing that they could have killed him. Next up, Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road. I don't feel like he gets much attention on these lists in these best of, but he's a terrific character, so colorful. He's got a great setup. I love the world building, and I love someone who he's used the resource of water as a means to control an entire group of people and a means to gain power. And he's a ruthless warlord, and he's self-obsessed. He's obsessed with creating a perfect line of his own people, of extending his genes, and he's willing to do anything to keep doing that. I think Immortan Joe is a terrific character, both in the battlefield and in basically in the politics of world building that George Miller set up.
Let's talk about Kramer versus Kramer, and specifically Joanna Kramer, played by Meryl Streep. Terrific film, also starring Dustin Hoffman. Now, she's obviously not a twisting mustache, gonna murder people villain, but she is an antagonist to the protagonist of the film. Not saying that Dustin's character is a perfect guy. He's a workaholic, absent father and husband, which leads to her leaving him and their son, abandoning them in New York City to go figure out her own things for up I believe it's a year and a half. She leaves them. And she's a great antagonist because you understand her motivations and you understand why she had to do what she had to do. Throughout the course of the film, you feel terrible for Dustin Hoffman's character and the son because it takes him a while to understand really why she left. Eventually, he does learn and get the reasoning behind it, but it's very difficult for their son to understand why she left, and it's tough for him to go through. He's being raised for his father. It's a very bumpy process, and he's filling in that void, but she's a great antagonist to him in opposing force because she makes him, Dustin Hoffman's character, learn what's most important in life, and that's family and my child. And he never would have had that discovery if she never left him. That's not why she left, but it led to a great changing of that character and of that person from being an absent father, absent husband, to being a devoting father and a very loving father and doing anything for his son, even giving up the life that he always wanted. And like I said, not all villains are evil, killing, murdering, up to no good. But she's an empathetic character because you understand why she left.
And by the end of the film, she realizes that he is the one who deserves the kid. He deserves it, being the father and having the custody. And she takes, when she realizes how much he's changed, it becomes the obvious answer of who should be raising this boy. Beautiful film. So tragic. Next up, we're over at Pixar with one of their classic films. I guess it's a classic. It's over 20 years old, right? You can call it a classic then, right? Monsters, Inc. I still think one of the best ones they've ever made.
Yep.
And Randall, played by Steve Buscemi. Such a great villain. I love him. He's funny. I love the design, being able to become invisible. He is the second-tier villain of the film, but overall, he shows himself to be dangerous, highly intelligent, very capable, and he's got his really strong desires too. He wants to be the best scarer. Sully's in his way, and you can understand the motivation behind that. And also, he wants to get the glory of getting the kid. It's a terrific conclusion of the chase in the third act of the film that's so exciting and wonderful. And overall, I think Randall steals every scene he's in.
Well, since you just brought up Steve Buscemi, can we talk about a movie I don't think is on the list, but I think has several underrated villains combined, and that's Fargo, where Steve Buscemi, he plays Carl as well as Peter Stormare, who plays Gear, and they're the kidnappers. But I think Jerry Lundegaard is a very underrated villain in general. He's a bumbling idiot. He's a buffoon, makes terrible decisions, but that doesn't mean he's not a villain, because he orchestrated and planned and was the catalyst for the kidnapping and eventually murder of his wife and the destruction of his family. And even though he's got the fake smile and he's just so pathetic, I still think he's a great villain, and I'd like to add him to the list if that's cool with you.
That's great. I didn't put any Fargo in it because there's 3 villains in it. It's like, do you choose one or you put them all on the list? And then it gets
Jerry, man. It's all Jerry.
Yeah. Jerry's a great villain. It's really funny. The heck you mean? And,
the heck you mean, Jerry? The heck you mean?
The heck you mean? Because Buscemi's a great villain. Stormare's a great villain, too. That movie's full of great villains. So I was like, since you can't, it's hard to single out one. But I think Jerry Lundegaard's a great pick for sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. I just wanted to add him in there. But let's get back to our list that we have written now. Let's talk about a Batman movie. Batman Begins.
Woo!
Ra's al Ghul, who I fucking... You all know I love this movie. You all know I'm a Batman Begins fan.
Me too, man. Don't act like I don't love it. I love Batman.
Because I always call it my favorite Batman movie. I think it's definitely underrated, and the best origin story. We all know this movie changed comic book movies forever. Iron Man, they tried to basically copy the arcs of what they did here, and they did a really great job. But Ra's al Ghul is, I think, an underrated and kind of overhated villain in the Batman world cinematically. And I think Liam Neeson brought so much to that role, his incredible talent acting, and then the gravitas. And Ra's is a really interesting character, a bit of an ambiguous backstory, but we get nuggets of it here and there, so we understand his motivations. And he's just perfect as this leader of the League of Shadows, trying to end the reign of Gotham and destroy the city, just like they've done with Constantinople and Rome before us. I love the character. I love the motivations. Using fear as a tool biochemically, really fascinating concept, and I love this film.
It's so great turning the mentor into the villain. It's a great trajectory. That rarely happens, and I love Liam Neeson in this film. He's outstanding.
The recruit.
Next up, we had the fucking recruit. Next up, we have an absolute classic, one of the best films ever made, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Now, if you haven't seen this film, it's about 3 men who set out into the desert to dig for gold, and it turns them all against each other. However, one of them singles themselves out as being the true antagonist of the film, and that is the character of Cobbs, played by Humphrey Bogart. He didn't play villains very often, but man, he is sensational in this film. He's ruthless, he's brutal, he's gruff, he's dirty, he's nasty, he's unsavory, and he's willing to do anything. This film depicts the breaking down of trust so well, and he's a character who's fueled by greed and greed alone. Humphrey Bogart, I think, he was the biggest star of his time in the 40s, in the early 50s. He was Tom Cruise level famous. And then this was such a staggering feat of acting that he had never done before. And this is, I think, his best performance. He's absolutely phenomenal in this movie and one of the great movie villains of all time.
Let's talk about The Jackal, starring Bruce Willis, who's an awesome assassin in this movie, hides in disguises, changes his appearance multiple times, just completely emotionless to humanity and empathy. Great sequences, great scenes. Blowing off Jack Black's arm is just a cool sequence, and I think Bruce Willis rocks the hell out of that role.
He's so good. It's like he proved to everyone he can act his ass off. Next up, we got Mission Impossible in the house. Solomon Lane, played by Sean Harris, I think was a fantastic villain for the franchise. He's in 2 movies. He's in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation and then in Mission Impossible Fallout. He has different points of power in both films. In Rogue Nation, he is the villain, and in Fallout, he ends up being the ultimate villain. But he did need a lot of help from his crew. I think Sean Harris brought so much great dynamism and subtlety and minimalism to the world of Mission Impossible. Excellent villain.
Gary Oldman is next in his movie The Fifth Element from Luc Besson. And Gary's played a lot of great villains, but Zorg is definitely the most unique, interesting. His aesthetic is odd. The wardrobe's crazy. He bleeds this goop from his head. He's got that head plate. The accent's terrific. Gary, I think he did this for money reasons? I can't remember, but I know he doesn't love the movie or the performance, but you got to get paid sometimes. And I think it's a very memorable role for him, and it's just so silly and animated. It's almost cartoonish, and it seems like a lot of fun.
It's a really, really fun performance. Next up, another 90s classic. We got Blade. Stephen Dorff's character, Deacon Frost, who is the villain of the film, I think is such a solid, underappreciated villain in comic book movie history. He has an excellent plan. He takes over the power dynamics of the vampire underworld and has an amazing plan to make himself the ultimate vampire. The stakes are super high. He's brilliant. He's a great he's a chess player. And also, he's scary and physically imposing to Blade. I think overall, he's a sensational villain in comic book movies and works really well in this movie. The best villain that Blade's ever had in movies.
All right, next up we have Headhunters. This is that Swedish movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen this in a minute. Can you do this one real quick?
So, Klaus Grave, he's played by Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones. He plays what we think is, a headhunter at a corporation. They hire people for the corporations. However, it turns out he's also an assassin, and he was targeting our lead character. However, his attempts to kill him don't go well. Our lead character somehow keeps getting out of these absolutely insane situations. It's really funny, darkly humorous, but it's got incredible action sequences, a lot of great brutal kills, and it's such a fun ride. If you haven't seen Headhunters, you got to check that movie out ASAP. It's so incredible. Flies under the radar, but it's really one of the best international films in the action genre, and definitely check it out. But Coster-Waldau, in his best performance, he's really good in this movie.
And we'll do one more, then we'll head to our intermission. Let's talk about another Chris Nolan movie and do Insomnia. Walter Finch, played by the great Robin Williams, is a really, really great villain, memorable. This is an excellent movie, and I think flies a bit under the radar in the shadows of Chris Nolan's rest of his career, just like Robin Williams the rest of his career. You kind of forget about these other great roles. He's played like a photo booth. Or, was that what the other one's
Phone
called?
booth.
Phone booth. No, photo booth.
1 hour photo.
1 hour photo. That's what it is. Another great villain that he plays in that film.
He kills people in a photo booth.
Yeah, he has a couple of really standout villain roles in his career, and I think Insomnia is a really good one. One of the better foot chases you'll ever see in a movie as well.
All right, let's move into our intermission.
All right, before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast, where you get access to weekly bonus episodes, ad-free versions of every single episode without the commercial breaks, as well as access to our Discord. We have 5 different tiers of membership. Find out which one is best for you and your wallet at Patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Another great way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube. Super important to our channel's growth, as well as leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify. These ratings and reviews help us get seen by new people. They help us chart on podcast platforms. I'll read a written review out from Apple Podcasts in just a minute so that someone can be immortalized forever on the show. And also, sharing is the best way for a podcast to grow. Share our episodes, but also Instagram Reels and content we post, TikToks, sharing those videos, sharing into your stories, commenting, engaging. That's how we get awesome, fun opportunities. That's why we got flown out to London to meet the cast of Ballerinas, because you all engage with our content, you watch our videos. So that is just as important as watching episodes, is sharing content and commenting.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our amazing friends at movieposters.com, the number one place to get all of your poster needs today. Use our promo code Raiders10. That'll always get you 10% off your order, as well as the affiliate link in the description of this episode and our social media bio. That gives James and I a little cut of the action. Look at that beautiful, gigantic backlit poster of Tom Cruise behind James for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. You can get backlit posters like that and the frames at movieposters.com. They really make your home look like a movie theater. They have a huge selection of pretty much all your favorite movies and TV shows in their poster library, from classics to huge modern blockbusters like Sinners and Thunderbolts and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. They have alternate movie posters, international posters. These are high-quality prints. They look really good in any size, and they're very affordable, made even more affordable thanks to our coupon code Raiders10. They also have super fast shipping, like that thing gets delivered to you quickly. Go to movieposters.com for all of your poster needs. Use our coupon code and the affiliate link at movieposters.com. See ya.
All right, let's get into the intermission. See, I don't know. You ready for the movie quote competition?
Ready.
50 years from now, when you're looking back at your life, don't you want to be able to say that you had the guts to get in the car?
Huh.
Hello?
Is that Ferris Bueller?
Anthony, I can't hear you.
Sorry, lost you.
All good. 1 sec.
I accidentally closed the app.
Copy. Yeah, we're at an hour already. So I'm just like,
Yeah, cool.
let's get this going. All right. Let's begin with our movie quote competition. You ready?
Ready.
50 years from now, when you're looking back at your life, don't you want to be able to say you had the guts to get in the car?
Sounds like Ferris Bueller. No.
No.
Wait, we're doing a decision. Someone's deciding to get in or not. It's a teen film.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Transformers.
Oh my god, I was never going to get that. That's a good one. You got me. Here's my quote. Where'd you learn how to fight? On a farm!
Man of Steel, baby.
That's right.
Guess this movie release year. Ghost Rider.
2007?
Yeah.
Nice. What year did The Karate Kid come out?
1985.
84.
Oh, no!
Sorry to shatter your confidence. You were,
Yeah, I was way
you were
too
very
confident
close. Yeah.
All right, Anthony, movie pop quiz time. In 1994, an unreleased superhero movie was made with the sole intention of maintaining film rights for the production studio that had the rights to it.
What is the Fantastic Four?
Yes.
Nice.
Unreleased,
Hell yeah.
and even Marvel and Constantine films, they destroyed all the film prints and negatives because they were worried about blowback and destroying the brand and the Fantastic Four, because it was literally just made to maintain rights.
I feel like there was There might have been like a decent actor in it too. I don't know. My quiz question is, John G. Avildsen directed The Karate Kid. He also directed what other famous sports film?
Hoosiers.
Incorrect.
Good question. Good question. I don't know.
Best Picture winning Rocky.
Oh my God! I was about to say it's a boxing movie too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
He directed Rocky. No one really knows his name.
Man, this is one of the best movies ever.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got for haters this week, Anthony? I'm gonna pull up a review.
Oh, we got some good ones. They were cracking me up all the last couple of days. All right, first up. From Reyes. Hey guys, it's clear that the person who left that 1-star review has definitely not been watching since COVID. Otherwise, they definitely would not. They would definitely not believe a word they were typing. Maybe they recently got offended by your Joker 2 opinions last year and sought to destroy you with pure lies and nonsense. Anyways, upon remembering that Joker review, I have decided to unsubscribe too. Although for different movie tastes do exist because unfairly judging people online is what people do nowadays, I guess. Smash 6820. Unfortunately, Apple Podcasts won't let me post another review, even though I wrote up a good one on Apple Podcasts. Sorry, I will say that Crimson Dude needs to unsubscribe from being a hater. This is how I know he doesn't listen to your show. All you spread is movie love and laughter. It's infectious. Thank you. Aw, that's sweet. Next up, we got Tiny Raccoon, also known as Daniel. Hey guys, recently found your podcast and I love it. It's made me want to watch so many old films and rewatch ones I love with a greater understanding of themes and more. I love that you two aren't a bunch of haters and just trashing films you do not love. I've devoured 40 episodes in the last month and have so many more saved. However, if you continue to blow my ears out on the switch to ads, I will be forced to unsubscribe. I run an independent bookstore, and there are some long hours, so thanks for keeping me occupied. Daniel. P.S. 5-star review coming in soon.
Oh, thanks so much, Daniel. We love independent bookstores.
Sorry about the ads. We don't really get to choose how loud they are. Sometimes it can be jarring.
I didn't realize that they're louder than the show itself.
Yeah. All right, next up, Michael Angel Gonzalez. Film Fellas. Another great episode. But I cannot believe that 1-star review. Theoden from Lord of the Rings. What men can do such reckless hate?
How long has Saruman bought you?
Well, this man will leave a true review without lies and misinformation describing how truly great you guys are to movies and movie fandom. Now I must unsubscribe, for only by unsubscribing can I resubscribe to get this awesome podcast. All right, next up in a Mission Impossible episode, Vinal wrote, unsubscribing for not mentioning sinners. All right, Dawson on Mission Impossible. You had the perfect opportunity to say, let's get into our intermission possible. From that, I must unsubscribe. However, in the spirit of Ethan Hunt, I'll try you one last time and resubscribe. That would have been funny. All right, Ocean. Glenn Powell as Indiana Jones? Why not John Cusack if you're going to crap on it? Unpatreon, unsubscribe, and all the other uns. All right, Darian Wallace. I remember the day we collectively unsubscribed upon learning that we weren't getting a Cavill bond, so let's hope your theory is true about Aaron Taylor Johnson. Also, came back from a 2-week cruise, so was excited to binge some new episodes I missed, boys. Oh, there's lots in the can. Finally, No-So Midday. El Mariachi was filmed on 16mm, unsubscribed. Fact check, true.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
All right, let me read this super long review we got from They Speak English in What? That's who it's from. The subject line, The Ultimate Movie Podcast. If you are a movie fan, this might just be your new favorite podcast. James and Anthony's love for film is infectious, and not only that, they know their stuff, having even directed and worked on several films themselves. I've learned so much from them about film and filmmaking. They also taught me the correct pronunciation for Denis Villeneuve's last name, which nobody, even at the Oscars, seems to get right. They have an appreciation for all different kinds of movies, Not just blockbusters or the typical film bro movies, they are also some of the most dedicated podcasters out there, releasing at least 4 shows per week. And not only episodes breaking down movies, but also movie news episodes and an episode where they recap which films they watched that week. Their brotherly banter always makes me laugh, as well as all their film references, such as, put the money in the bag, put your hands in the air. I'm putting that in here just so I can hear them say it again on the show. Put the money in the bag.
The fuck this up.
Do yourself a favor and give this podcast a listen. P.S. I might have to unsubscribe if they don't do episodes on the Dollars Trilogy. P.S.
Oh, yeah.
PPS, looking forward to James getting that tattoo once they get to 3,000 ratings. I thought it was 5,000.
It's 3,000.
No, it's not. We're way too close to that. Nah, I'm pretty sure it's
3,000. It's 3,000.
We're going to have to go back to the tapes and figure that out. Because
okay.
We're only 900.
I'm confident it's 3,000.
We're 900 Apple ratings away from that.
It'll take some time.
Anyways, thanks so much for leaving that review. Whoever you are, they speak English in what? Obviously a Pulp Fiction reference. Thank you so much.
They speak English in what?
All right, Anthony, what's your recommendation for streaming?
We were talking about Dan Stevens earlier, so there's a great Dan Stevens movie called Apostle that's on Netflix. Definitely worth checking out.
I recommend Smile 2 on Paramount Plus or MGM. I think it's the best horror franchise going right now.
Nice.
Let's get back into our list of underrated movie villains and take it away. Oh, Strickland from The Shape of Water. Didn't expect to play him. Played by Michael Shannon, correct?
Correctamundo.
I've only seen this movie once, and I remember him being a bad guy in it, though. But
he's a real bad guy.
Really, really excellent film. Michael Shannon brings so much to every role he does. But I haven't seen it I think I've only seen it the once when it came out.
I think it's great. I think it's a great movie. And I'm glad it won Best Picture. And he is the true monster of the film.
Yeah.
Next up at number 29, we have Paul Dano's breakout as Eli Sunday in There Will Be Blood. He plays the pastor trying to clashing with Daniel Plainview for the soul of the town. These two rivals butt heads multiple times, leading into an earth-shattering conclusion in the finale of the movie, which is one of my favorite scenes ever. This movie is my personal favorite of all time, and Paul Dano really crushed it. I mean, he was cast as the role of Paul Sunday. The actor for Eli Sunday dropped out, and so last minute, Paul Thomas Anderson decided to make them twins, cast Paul Dano as Paul Sunday as well. So he had to learn all these lines and prepare to do scenes with the greatest actor of all time, Daniel Day-Lewis, on very short notice, not planning to do so when he got the job. But I think he held his own in an impossible task, playing opposite one of the great performances ever. But he's great. I think he held his own really well in this movie.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that movie's just full of villains. Daniel's very much a villain. His fake brother's very much a villain. So Henry's a villain. The father of the girl's is a villain. So the movie is just full of antagonists. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Abel. Standard Oil are villains.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's no hero in that movie except for Daniel's son.
HW.
James
remembered 0 names from that movie.
Shut up, man. Listen, I'm the one that has to wake up at 7 a.m. to get and roll out of bed to film. You're chilling. It's the afternoon over there. Anyways, let's talk about Blowout.
Yes.
Awesome De Palma movie. John Travolta's great, but the villain is fantastic in this film. It's Lithgow, right?
John Lithgow.
Yeah, John Lithgow plays Burke, who we're about to see as Dumbledore. But this it's so fantastic, and if you've never seen it, you got to put it on your watch list ASAP. It's hysterical, but so well designed, so well filmed, so many great split diopter shots. And Lithgow is great. He played a lot of villains in the past around this era as well. And I think this is one of his most memorable for sure.
Yeah, he's great in Ricochet too, but I think this one flies so under the radar. And because he's a character who's he's hired to not kill people, but he's so out of control. he's like, we need to start taking people out. And his employer's like, wait, what? You killed that person? He's so off the rails, and he's a really disturbing person in this movie. It's great. Next up, we got another Mission Impossible movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman as one of the best villains in the franchise, Owen Davian. He is so good in this movie. It's rare to see such dynamic acting in giant action movies, but he brought it because he was one of the great actors of all time. And Owen Davian's a really interesting villain, whereas the villains for the first two, Phelps is a good villain, and then the second villain kind of like a cliche archetype. But Owen Davian's complex. He's a brilliant mastermind. He's excellent at manipulation. He has a terrific plan. And essentially, the impossibility of the mission is to overpower him. But Philip Seymour Hoffman, opposite Tom Cruise in those interrogation scenes, is some of the most intense moments of the entire franchise.
Let's get into next one. Where'd you grow up? On a farm. General Zod from Man of Steel. I think one of the better comic book movie villains. I think the MCU has overshadowed a lot of the DC movies, but Man of Steel for me is still a awesome special superhero comic book movie. And Michael Shannon, again, as General Zod, really brought the heat. He's so good. So many great memorable lines. Character design's fantastic. I think he's just superb, and I think this role needs to get more recognition in the comic book genre.
Yeah, he's a villain that you really understand what he's doing and why he's doing it. And he's a different species, and he views the human race as like a lesser species. His people are more important. You can understand that. Next up, we got Lil Ze from City of God. He's this little kid who ends up becoming this monstrous personality within the community. He's this unhinged young boy raised through hate and violence, and he inflicts that on others around him. He's a loose cannon and becomes such a terrifying figure in the story. He's unpredictable. He's dangerous. He does what he wants. He takes what he wants. And he's a character who, in a community in a world where power is everything, he knows how to take power, and he's the only one who's so ruthless and enough to do whatever he wants that he succeeds and gains a lot of power because of it. But an excellent character.
Next up, we have from Dredd, the live adaptation, Mama. Such an underrated character, played by Lena Headey, and Mama basically is a drug pin king lord. She is the leader of a gang. She is at the top of the skyscraper. She runs the whole skyscraper and the whole building, and she's got judges on her payroll and a whole army of criminals. But as Dredd and his partner are working their way up, she'll stop at anything to kill them, killing innocent people, doing whatever she needs to, ruthless means, and she's obviously in control of that very powerful drug. But I think Lena Headey's awesome in this role. It's a really cool character and an awesome, underrated movie in general.
Yeah, 100%. Next up at number 23, we have Warden Norton from The Shawshank Redemption. A character who is, I think, an all-time villain, but never gets that kind of recognition. He's a terrible human being. He takes advantage of the system to his own gain. He uses Andy Dufresne and abuses Andy Dufresne, punishes him for, showing that he's more intelligent than him, showing that he's deeply insecure. He relishes in his power at the prison. He, without hesitation, has men killed. He's a ruthless human being. Extremely good performance. I think this movie's so good, and its antagonists. There's a lot of antagonists in the film, whether it be other prisoners or the guards or the warden. So there's a lot of villains in the movie, but I think he does shine above the others as being the worst of the bunch. And he also has one of the most satisfying conclusions ever.
Yeah, great pick right there. You might as well do the next one because you adore the film.
Ah, yes. Ingmar Bergman's Fanny and Alexander, the character Edvar Vergers, who is the priest in the community. After our lead actress, his family, her husband passes away, she goes to him and marries him, thinking that he can provide a safe home of solace and comfort and security for her two young children, Fanny and Alexander. However, he turns out to be an abuser, a dominating human, a cruel husband, and even crueler father. He doles out punishments like it's the old ages, and he becomes as big of an obstacle as she could ever encounter. And it's at a point in this film, it feels like there's no escape from this, and how can she ever protect her children? And I think he's really one of the great villains to ever be put on screen. He showcases the darkness of humanity in so many powerful ways, and an incredible foe for our characters.
Next, we have The Revenant, Tom Hardy's character, John S. Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald, after the others leave after the bear attack, he ends up killing DiCaprio's son and getting away with Will Poulter's character to... He lies to him, obviously, saying that he saw indigenous around coming for them. So in order for self-preservation, more money, he'll kill anyone, and he kills his son. What's his name? What's DiCaprio's name in that movie? I forgot. Glass. Hugh Glass's son. And thinks he gets away with it until the rest of the film. Hugh Glass spends the entire time out for vengeance, surviving so he can kill Fitzgerald with a great finale. And I think Hardy's so great. The character design, the mannerisms, the scalped head, it's all perfect.
I love the knife fight at the end. It's such a good fight.
Brutal.
Sick of carrying these pelts. Next up at number 21. Absolute classic action movie. Patrick Swayze as Bodhi in Point Break, baby. Let's go. He's a villain that you can't help but love. And the allure of the world he's built, the community he lives within, the brotherhood of him and his buddies, it's so intoxicating to Johnny Utah. That's part of what makes the movie work so well, is he's my antagonist, he's my adversary, but you know what? I love him, and I can't help but want to be around him. And that's a testament to Swayze's infectious talents and personality. But Bodhi, make no mistake, he's a villain. He does terrible things. He kills without remorse, and he sets up people that he once cared about to die for his own personal gain. But he does, he faces so much loss, and everything that he plans goes to shit. But man, he's a terrific villain.
Yeah, his character goes from fuck the system, fuck establishment, to just being all about for greed. That's all he wants.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can you take it away with the next one, too?
We got Mary from The Children's Hour. This is an incredible film starring Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine. And this is a film similar to things like Atonement, Anatomy of a Fall, things like that, where a miscommunication and a little white lie leads to the most terrible consequences imaginable. And the character of Mary, so Hepburn and MacLaine have this girls' school that they run and operate. They are teachers, and they look after the girls, and the girls stay there. It's like living at school. And it's become a good business. They're doing well. But they punish this girl, Mary, a lot because she's a terrible troublemaker. And to get back at them, Mary comes up with this lie that Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine are intimate together. And this is the 50s, so it was a big no, big taboo back then, and frowned down upon. This little white lie spreads like fire, and eventually, within a matter of hours, parents take all their kids out of the school, and the two women are destroyed by the press and media, all because of this girl. That's basically the setup of the movie. And the movie is basically Hepburn and MacLaine trying to get back their reputation, and this girl Mary conniving, manipulating other girls to prevent them from learning the truth. And it's not like Atonement where it's a misunderstanding. This is one where she knows what she's doing, and she's doing whatever she can in her own self-preservation. It's I think one of the best written villains I've ever seen, and such a great performance for the young actress.
Let's get to the Indiana Jones franchise and talk about Belloc. Obviously, the Nazis are the big villain in these movies, but Belloc is a great opposing force and rival to Indiana Jones, has been for much of his life in undocumented films and TV shows. there were plans to bring him into like the young Indiana Jones TV series. He's operating at times in other films, but Belloc is the archaeologist who's always chasing Indy to steal his prize that he uses Indy to get, just like the Nazis do at the end of the film, in the other films. And Belloc, suave, sophisticated, intelligent, but also conniving and not as evil as the Nazis, but is evil enough to work with them to get what he wants.
Belloc.
Belloc. Beloche.
And he always seems to be one step ahead of Indy, and he's smarter than Indy because he knows I'll let Indy do all the work, and then I'll come out on top.
No, he's not smarter than Indy. He's just maybe logistically a better. He knows Indy's the smart one. Like, he's not smart enough to do.
You're
what
right.
Indy
Okay,
does.
you're right.
He uses Indy because he knows Indy's smarter.
You're right. I completely take it back. There's no.
How could you?
He knows that he.
How
he knows
dare you
that,
stand where he stood? How dare you?
How dare you? There's no way he could get these artifacts, so he waits for Indy to grab them.
Exactly.
And then he's like, "It's mine, bitch."
Just like Last Crusade.
All right, next up, we got an absolute classic, Chinatown, with Noah Cross being the villain of the movie. This is an incredible reveal towards the end of the film. Noah Cross, we learn, is maniacal, power-hungry, truly cruel, and willing to do anything to gain power and wealth, but also keep his secrets. He has a really deep, dark secret, and what he did, he's done horrible things to his family and to others. But he's a ruthless individual, and really is like one of the best villains ever.
Next, we have Mamiya in Cure, right?
Mamiya.
What did I say? Mamiya?
Yeah.
Mamiya. So, Mamiya, in this excellent Japanese horror movie.
It might be. Yeah.
From the 90s, Cure. He's the main antagonist. He's very mysterious and this sort of drifter.
He uses hypnotism. He gets people to kill other people, so he never actually does it himself.
That's right, yeah.
But he hypnotizes people with the flame of a lighter, and after they're hypnotized, they kill someone and make the X mark on their neck.
Thanks.
No problem.
I totally
It's a great
forgot.
film.
Totally forgot about that. All right, take it away, guy.
Take it away with Sizzle. I think that's right. From Marathon Man. If you are afraid of the dentist, do not watch this movie. Played by Sir Laurence Olivier, Sizzle is an incredible villain. Dustin Hoffman's character is caught himself up in the middle of a conspiracy and with criminals, one with Nazis as well. And Laurence Olivier plays a German Nazi dentist and scientist who has escaped into America and is working in hiding, and he wants his diamonds that Dustin Hoffman has stumbled upon because of his brother. And he is willing to do anything to get his diamonds back, and he uses dentistry as a means of torture. And my God, some of the most spine-tingling, squirming scenes ever are in this movie.
Let's talk about Interstellar and Dr. Mann as the villain in this film, who, of course, we learn in the opening of the film is the best of us, which is a great irony because he ends up succumbing to the worst emotions of humanity and giving into fear, but also giving into cowardice. And because of his cowardice, he ends up killing people, murdering others, as well as trying to take control of the future of humanity, making terrible decisions, leaving logistical thinking and practical thinking away. Obviously high intellect, but destroys that once he destroys the ship. Will do anything to succeed out of his fear of dying. Whereas others in the film, like Cooper, are willing to die for those they love and willing to die for humanity. Mann is the opposite. He'll do anything to survive. He'll lie. He'll ruin humanity's chances at succeeding in the future by giving the false signal in his isolated, decrepit planet with no chance of human survival. he'll risk the future of humanity versus just giving up and letting it go and letting humanity survive and giving the best shot. So it's all about him versus everyone else.
Also, his pride. He wants to be the savior.
Yeah.
Great reveal, too.
There is a moment. Boom!
There is a moment. All right, next up. Staying in space for a second with an underrated sci-fi film, Alien Covenant, and David, played by Michael Fassbender, reprising his role. In this film, he truly is a terrific villain and evil figure. He looks down upon the creators and destroys them. And his plan ultimately is to spread this virus and to go forward. I think that his scenes opposite himself, playing the other android, are so fantastic. And Fassbender, I think, is one of the best actors of his age, and he really got to shine in this movie. I like how they evolved the character and how he transformed, and he's so different from the synthetic that we saw in the first film, Prometheus. I think he's an extraordinary antagonist and so good.
The next villain is a twist reveal, so if you've never seen Prisoners and don't want this revealed, this is your warning that spoilers are ahead for who the villain in Prisoners is. It's actually Holly Jones, played by Melissa Leo in this film, and she has been, with her deceased ex-husband, the kidnapper of children and murderer of children. She kidnaps them and will put them inside of her tunnel system under her home and eventually kill them. And this whole time, no one suspected it until the end of the film. And it's a great twist reveal by the end. Great character, horribly evil, and just such a good big reveal at the end of the film.
Yeah, fantastic villain, man. Really, really great. Next up at number 12, we got the sexiest character on this list. And that's August Walker from Mission Impossible Fallout, played by Henry Cavill. Man, I love this character. I love the villain. Obviously, Solomon Lane is the main antagonist of the film, but I really like the August Walker character a lot. I think he's a terrific opposite reflection of Ethan. They have similar jobs, but he's the hammer to Ethan's scalpel. He's willing to do anything for his beliefs. And then we learn in the second act of the film how corrupted he is and how he's been behind everything to help Solomon Lane escape. And it leads into really the most exciting third act action sequence in recent memory of August Walker versus Ethan Hunt. First, a helicopter chase, and then, McQuarrie and Tom Cruise love film, and they took on their love for great villains in movie history. And, oftentimes great villains have something different about them. They're scarred or facial features or something. It's like a Bond villain, and they horribly scar him to show him being a more grotesque figure. And the final fight on the cliffside is so fantastic. He's brutal. He's powerful. He grew his beard out from loading up his arms somehow. Everything about the role. I love August Walker. He's great.
Next up, we have great pick, Harlan Maguire from Road to Perdition, played by Jude Law. Really interesting character. He plays an assassin, but he's also a forensics photographer. And, this is a rare instance where Jude Law doesn't look like a golden god, and they do a good job giving him, disgusting teeth. He's got this very pale, sallow skin because he spends so much time in a darkroom developing photos. But he's also a hitman and an assassin who gets hired throughout the course of the film, hunting down Tom Hanks and his son as they're on the run. Also pulls out several hits, but I think it's a great character. It's a really, really good movie, excellent period piece, and a unique look at a hitman, especially in this era.
Yeah, I love the role. He's so creepy and unnerving. He's such a good-looking human being that you do forget how talented of an actor he always has been. And this is one of those roles where you're like, man, this guy could do anything. And he really disappears into it. I love the reveal with his scarred skin from the shrapnel. It's from the glass, Incredible face. All right, next up at number 10, we're in the top 10 of underrated villains. And we have another assassin-type character. From Blade Runner 2049, we have Love, who I think is so incredible. I love the character. She is so dangerous, highly intelligent. She's an android, but she's also fueled by this desire for validation from Wallace and this need to be the best of all other androids. And she does show semblances of her own humanity within her own consciousness. She's not just an android. She does lie about. I love the line before she kills Robin Wright. She says, "I'm going to tell him you fired at me first." So it shows that she's lying to Wallace. Probably has been for a while, which means she's been hiding her own consciousness inside. I think she's fascinating. I think it's such a great performance, very complex for an android character, and she is just dynamite on screen, and I think she's so great.
Next, we have a De Niro character from a Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon. We have William King Hale. Now, William King Hale, again, this is going to be another spoiler warning if you haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon, but he ends up being the mastermind and the main criminal behind the series of murders against the Osage people because they became such wealthy people per capita, the most wealthy people, I believe, in America and maybe on the planet. But Hale had this scheme of marrying into the families, marrying the women of the Osage and killing them to get influence of and power and control of their wealth. Terrible character, terrible real-life figure, but portrayed so well and brilliantly by De Niro.
Next up, we have Captain Vidal from Pan's Labyrinth. Guillermo del Toro's made a lot of incredible monsters in his films, but just like Michael Shannon's character in The Shape of Water, Captain Vidal is the most monstrous being in that film. Setting his film in the backdrop of wartime adds a lot of layers of complexity to the story, and with this character, we see the true brutal nature of how villainous and how evil a human being can be. He's a man obsessed with his bloodline, and he's willing to do anything to make sure that his future son is born healthily to preserve his family name. And he's cares about very little else. He doesn't care about his wife. He doesn't care about his new daughter-in-law. He doesn't care about other people. He doesn't have empathy for anyone. All he cares about is his name. And he's driven to extremes. He kills without remorse. He's so violent and so brutal. And when he's on screen, as an audience member, you're terrified.
Let's talk about a great underrated villain related to another villain. Now, Hans Gruber in Die Hard gets a lot of attention for being a great villain. He's not on this list. However, his brother, Simon Gruber, is on this list from Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He plays Simon Says, Simon Gruber, who was a former National People's Army colonel who orchestrates this great, huge, elaborate task and all these riddles for John McClane all over the city to prevent bombings from going off and terrorist attacks. However, these are all a diversion because his main goal is to rob the New York Federal Reserve Bank of billions in gold. It's a great wild goose chase while he's doing this whole other thing, and Jeremy Irons is so good as this character.
It's one of his best roles, and it's one of the best sequels ever. Die Hard with a Vengeance is outstanding. So amazing. Fucking love that movie. All right, moving into the top 5. And this is a character that I never see on villain lists. I think he deserves to be. He's one of the greats of all time, and that's Roy Batty from Blade Runner, played by Rutger Hauer. Like Love, and they emulated Roy Batty with her character in 2049, he is complex. He's a character who has an astounding past that we hear lines of. People wouldn't believe the things I've seen, and he's desperate to survive. He's not motivated for lust. He's not motivated by power. He's not motivated to kill. He's motivated for survival. That's all he wants to do is just to keep on living, and he's willing to do anything to do that. And so you, as an audience member, you really empathize with him, and it's like, why doesn't he get a chance to live? Why isn't he have an opportunity to have a life? And so I think it's such a brilliant setup for a villain, and Rutger Hauer brought so much incredible charisma, personality. I love the costume. I love the hair. He's so incredible in this movie.
Tom Cruise has played villains really only twice in his career. You could argue Les Grossman is kind of villain adjacent in Tropic Thunder, but he's played a villain in Interview with a Vampire, but also as Vincent in Collateral. And Vincent is an all-time villain, especially in crime films. Vincent is a hitman, an assassin who has a series of hits he has to do throughout the course of one night. He gets into a random cab, operated by Jamie Foxx's character, and forces him along this merry trip of assassinations throughout the night. Vincent is ruthless. What's interesting is you can see maybe he was once a normal person in the past, but he's seen the worst parts of humanity, and he is merciless, tactical, efficient, great character design with the gray suit and the gray-white hair. I think he just operates with just impressive skill and a realistic hitman in a kind of contemporary world, it felt like. It wasn't too outlandish or flamboyant or overly done. And I love Tom as a villain. I wish he did more villain roles, but I understand he's Ethan Hunt. Can't do too many baddies, but Vincent as Collateral is so memorable.
Yeah, he's so good in that role. It shows his incredible range as an actor. At number 3, we got Angel Eyes from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. One of the great antagonists of all time, played by Lee Van Cleef. Incredible costume design, an imposing force and appearance. He's a great opposite to our good, the man with no name, Clint Eastwood. And then Tugo, he's the bad, and Tugo's the ugly. This is an epic story, and there's so many layers to it. But Angel Eyes has the ability to kind of infiltrate any kind of community. He's great with power. He's highly intelligent. And he wants his gold. He wants that gold. He wants that buried treasure. He's willing to do anything to get there. He's ruthless. He's dangerous. You don't want to square off against this guy in a gunfight. And we see that many times in this film. I love the role. Love the movie. One of the best ever.
2 villains left. Let's talk about the all-time great film, 12 Angry Men, and specifically the main antagonist of that film, outside of just the system in general, is juror number 3, who's this very loud, stubborn, very prejudiced man who is driven by a lot of emotional problems in his personal life, like the relationship with his son, which is estranged. And he is vehemently pro voting guilty for the young man on trial, consistently clashing with the other jurors, very loud, very outspoken. However, as his personal life and personal pain comes to the surface and he starts to understand what's causing his prejudices and what's causing his decisions and rationale, he really, truly understands that he is in the wrong. So he's a villain that learns, but for the majority of the film, he is the main driving force to make that guilty verdict based off of purely things that have nothing to do with the objective facts of the trial.
Yeah, he's purely emotional. He doesn't think logically at all or rationally. He thinks purely emotionally. And what makes him so dangerous as a character to that trial is that he doesn't want the kid to be innocent. That's his driving force, is like he doesn't want the kid to be innocent. He wants the kid to be guilty. And that's what makes him such a great villain. It's really, nobody ever talks about him. Amazing, amazing performance too. Finally, at number 1, who we believe is the most underrated film villain of all time, a representation of pure evil, Amon Goth from the film Schindler's List, a real figure in the Holocaust. Amon Goth was in charge of the Nazi camp depicted in the film, played by Ralph Fiennes, and an electrifying performance that deserved an Oscar win, but he lost to a legacy veteran winning some random supporting actor role. But Ralph Fiennes is undeniably one of the most talented actors working, and this is an indication of that. Amon Goth is brutal. He's ruthless. He sees Jewish people as less than human. He enjoys his job. He enjoys causing pain, enjoys causing suffering, kills in a playful way, and he treats them like they're insects. Schindler tries to reason with the man and comes up with a couple of ways to try and convince him to spare people, to show true power, and things like that. At the end of the day, he's so prideful and arrogant that Schindler is able to fool him and save lives under his own thumb, under his nose. But Ralph Fiennes is phenomenal in the role, one of the great villain performances of all time, and Amon Goth is truly one of the most despicable human beings ever put on film.
He lost to Tommy Lee Jones for U.S. Marshals.
That's what it was.
And I mean, Tommy's great. I'm sorry, yeah, The Fugitive, not U.S. Marshals, the first film. So Tommy Lee won for The Fugitive for the same character, Marshal Samuel Gerard. But I think that Rafe, of course, should have won over him. And what's interesting is, Hans Landa by Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards, that character clearly, no denying, was heavily inspired by Amon Goth in this film. Hands down character design, some of the behaviors, mannerisms, the high intellect as well as sophistication. Clearly Christoph, I think Tarantino had some inspo from this film and this character. And I think because of Hans Landa, people forgot about Amon Goth, but he really is arguably equivalent for villain status for me, if not a better villain in a lot of ways. But I still love, obviously, Christoph as Hans. He's more exciting cinematically. But Rafe, really phenomenal. He's played some of the best villains of all time. Voldemort, hands down, as well as he just got cast as another villain for The Hunger Games. So Rafe, something about him, he just knows how to get into the mind of evil people and really deliver terrific performances. He's one of the best actors of all time, hands down. And I think he definitely deserved an Oscar here. But that's why we have him at number one, because he seems to be a forgotten all-time villain that no one talks about anymore.
Absolutely. I totally agree. He's up there with Hans Landa, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot
great.
of fun. I love the top 10. But there's so many other villains
it's
that
really
you
good
might
characters.
that you all might think are underrated that aren't on this list. But, someone like, obviously, big villains from like Jack Torrance to Shining, but also even someone like Annie Wilkes from Misery we think is still a little too big of a villain to be in the underrated list. So
yeah, she's in so many lists. She doesn't qualify for this list. She's too big.
That's a good point. Good point. But man, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for the idea, Anthony.
Thanks, man. Thank you for chatting about underrated villains with me. And thanks to everybody for listening. If you lasted this long, we love you.
Yeah, thanks so much. As always, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Engage with our content. That is so key to us getting cool jobs and interviews and stuff like that. Become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. And take care, everybody.
See you next time.
This episode was brought to you by our chosen one patrons, Jacob Kostler and Nicholas Martin. Thanks so much, boys. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kostler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.